Hello there, this is Graham Roberts. Welcome to this tutorial on multiple panels, and in this one I am following on from the previous one. So if you haven't seen that, I suggest you dig it out and have a look at that. I'm starting with that code. As you can see, it's in this Netbeans IDE window, and so you can see I've got the multi-panels, there the frame set up. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 panels, which are actually all much the same because they're using the MyPanel template class, and the constructor does all of this, which, if you don't understand, is because maybe you haven't looked at my previous tutorial, and if you do understand it, excellent. And down here we have the instantiation of the frame as multi-panels, the constructor. Well, what we're going to do next is actually make this little program a little bit more under our control. As you can see, it pops up at the top left hand corner of the screen when one runs it. That's very annoying. We want it in the middle, really. And so also when I click to close it down, there I've done it, but look at this, it's still running down here, and I have to tediously go to it and say I want to actually cancel it, that is, make it exit and stop running as a program. So now I've done that, I've no longer got the program running. What we'd like to do is make it come in the center of the screen for us to not have to keep dragging it down, and also to help us with debugging, we'd like it to close totally when we've asked it to. It's being a little rude at the moment. So how do we do that? Well, I'll show you. I'll be using kind of magic typing, that is, I'm going to be copying and pasting rather than typing out for the sake of time. And so I'm just going to go to the end of this constructor as it was at the time, and I'm going to say this dot set default close operation, and I'm going to pass the constant exit on close that JFrame has, and this will in fact make it close when it exits. So I'll show you that, and the program will pop up in the top left hand corner. There it is. And now when I go away, it goes away. Much more polite. And what was the other thing? Ah, yes, we want to center it on the screen. Well, we go below this. We don't have to go below it, but we will because it's convenient. This dot set location relative to nothing is actually interpreted to put it in the center of the screen. I'm not going to go into why that is because I think it's kind of strange. In life we sometimes find things that are odd but cute, and I think this may be one of those. We just live with the idiosyncrasy of it. So now if we run this, we get the program popping up. Okay, that's not the center of your screen, but it is the center of mine. I'm just going to drag it to the center of yours and pretend it came up here for the sake of this tutorial, and capture I've got it in my top left hand corner of my screen. Anyway, there it goes. It's in the center now, and very nice too. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do, because that helps me with my subsequent tutorials, that's why I've done that now, we're going to actually customize these panels that we've created. Yes, yes, I should point out that this could have indeed been placed in the main method here, in which case we wouldn't be saying this dot set default close, etc. We would be saying frame dot set default close. You could put it down here. I'm keeping it in here because it suits my purpose. Now finally, I perhaps should say a word about the pack method. You'll probably see that pack method is used in this kind of position inside the frame, and there's no reason not to put it in. It will run exactly the same with it or without it in this particular case. I'll just leave it there for completion. Okay, so what we're doing next? Well, the next thing we're going to do is, as I said, customize as much as we can really these panels. Well, each panel, let's remind ourselves of what they look like. Here they are. Not really a lot there. I've already added to this panel a button, as you can see here. Private J button, JB standing for Java button. And what I'm going to be doing is adding a button to each of these panels. Well, we only have to do it once, don't we? Because we've only got one class from which our panel objects are being instantiated. We pass to the constructor 3 arguments, and we're going to add another argument here. It's going to be of type string, and it's going to be a name, because each of these panels have a name. Really, it's not an explicit name. Well, it will be now. It's an implicit name. That is north panel, south panel, west panel, east panel, and center panel, because we're using border layout. We use border layout up here, just for the sake of making sure we all know what we're talking about. Right, so we've done that here, and you see that there was some complaining going on by the ever vigilant editor in Netbeans IDE, that now I've got this argument and yet I haven't sent anything to the panel. So we need to do that. I'll just pop in here the word final though, because I'm not going to be changing the button once I've used it. In fact, I haven't used it yet, so it's complaining about that. I'm getting a war on many fronts. This is probably not a good idea. So let's just go back to multi-panels and start putting in what we should have here. So basically the first one will say north, because it's the north panel, and that will be its name, like so. And I'm down through the magic of the tutorial going to do the others blisteringly fast. Now you may have noticed that MyPanel has a J button, but it doesn't have anything that we can instantiate to the value of name, because what we want to do here is say this dot name is equal to name that's passed. Problem is we haven't actually created it, so we'll do that next. So now we are collecting a name, and we are able to put it into an instance variable name for the panel. Down here the complaint is about JB not being initialized. Well, it hasn't been, so that's one of our jobs to do next. So how do we initialize it? Well, we need to create the button. That's what we'll do, and we need to set its size, and we're going to set its text, and we're going to do that extremely fast. There we go. So name was equal to name. We've done that. Now the button is going to be instantiated, and then we set the size of the button there. And we're going to next say what we want on the button. We want to say click me, and we want to set its location. Now I'm going to set its location at 0, 0 in this particular case, and I want to show what happens, even though we haven't actually put in any layout for this panel. There's a layout for the frame, but not the panel so far. And of course, as you may know, that's not strictly true. But anyway, I'm spoiling my surprise. So I've put it at 0, 0, the top left-hand corner of the panel. It's a button, and you might be thinking, well, what about having an action histogram? And you'd be, of course, correct. But why have a dog and bark yourself? What we're going to do is just get Netbeans to do our work for us. So what I'm going to do is say that I want this subclass of JPanel, that is MyPanel, to implement an interface, the interface being Action Listener. I've already put in the imports for Action Listener, that is Action Event as well. These are the event handlers for, well, basically for a button, and so here it's actually complaining and asking not for the imports for those, although for you, if you haven't done this already, it will ask for imports. That's fine, just go and import them. But what I wanted to show you here, that it says MyPanel is not abstract and does not override abstract method action performed action event parameter in Action Listener. Well, it's going to offer to do it for us. So it's going to offer to add all the abstract methods. So we're going to ask it, yes, thank you very much, please do that. Implement all abstract methods. No, actually there's only one, and that is down here. Well, now here, action performed, action event E, and Netbeans puts in this nice exception handler. Basically, we don't need it, so we're going to get rid of it. And what we're going to do now is be able to handle clicks on the button, but there won't be any clicks on the button because I ignored your advice earlier about putting in an action listener, so I will do that now. So I'm going to actually on the button place an action listener. There we go. And of course you might like to pause this video for this. What am I missing now? What have I got to do? I want this button to be on the panel. I've created it, but it's not on the panel yet. What do I do to get it onto the panel? Well, of course we just add it to the panel, and that's what we do next. There we are, we're adding it to the panel. We haven't saved this in a while, so I'm just going to click on save, and you may have spotted that there's a cleanup going on in the background because I saved it. Well, let's run our gig, and this is what we get. There's nothing happening in the button. That's because I haven't asked it to be happening in the button. It's clickable, but I haven't done the event handler yet in terms of saying what happens when we get a click. But before we do that, let's have a look at this output. We put the button at 0, 0, but it's not at 0, 0. It's not at 0, 0 for the frame, and it's not at 0, 0 for the panel. It's actually in the middle, the center of the panel, and very delightfully placed, even though we told it to be somewhere else. What's going on? You might like to pause the video and have a look at if you're working along with me, which I hope you are, have a look at what you've got and see if you can work out why it is, even though we told it to go to the left, it's in the middle. Well, the conundrum is solved by revealing really two things. One, that we're setting the location before we put it on the panel, and that's not a good idea, so let's put it on the panel and then set location. That won't solve our problem. In fact, it's not really a problem, it's a delightful result of centering. But let's actually set the layout here, that is of the panel, not the button. So we're going to set layout to new FlowLayout. No, sorry, null. I meant to say no. Null. So we're going to have no layout here at all. So let's run that. And what do we get? Well, now we get the buttons on the left hand side, which is actually where we placed them. So now it's actually doing what we asked. It's adding the button to the panel in each case, and it's actually setting the location of the button in the top left hand corner of the panel, its container. This is because we set the layout to null, and if you're going to be doing what's called and frowned upon of absolute positioning, which you may need to do for a game, then we need layout null in our panel. So what was causing this centering? Because if I just close this now and I get rid of this layout statement and I run this, you'll see that they're back in the center again. That must mean that there is in fact a default layout for the panel, and there is, and it's called a FlowLayout. And so if we pop into this, the FlowLayout here, you'll find when you do this that there's no change. Now I should mention, because this is a tutorial, that if you are following along with me and you're getting all kinds of errors, this is because it's asking for you to do imports. The imports being for FlowLayout. You can also try border layout, which I've tried up here earlier whilst I was away. And anyway, there's the FlowLayout. So I'm going to run this, and what we should get is exactly what we had. So there we are. Invisibly behind the scenes there is a layout manager, which is FlowLayout, and it looks at what you're putting in and says, oh, I know, I can put that in the center. And if we added another button, it would be centered as well, as prettily like that one adjacent to it. I'm going to leave the FlowLayout as it is because it's rather pretty, and I'm going to get rid of this set location 00 because, well, I don't need it, not care about it, so I'm going to get rid of it. Right, so we've explained how to put a button onto in effect 5 different panels, and next we're going to actually do something with the click. Well, what are we going to do? We're not going to do much. We just want to change the legend, as I call it, on the button, that is the text of the button, to say I was here sort of thing. And really the way to do that is it's fairly straightforward once you've got around the bits that aren't. Okay, so what are we going to do? Well, there's an object variable containing the event source, and that is in fact inside this argument E. So what I'm saying is that it contains the event source. So we're going to say that we want an event source as an object, and there we go, equals that, get source. Now this statement is the same really whatever you do with these buttons, so it's not something you have to fully understand. You just have to accept that we've got to get at this E parameter. Now we do know that we can check the event source, and so we can ask if the event source is JB, because we've only got one button. So is it JB? Well, if it is, we're going to set the text of JB to the name that we gave it, remember this, and also say that the button has been checked or clicked. Rather. Go back to MyPanels. Remember what we did was we passed the name of the panel to each panel. So as we run this now, we should be seeing a behavior that we wanted in our design. So we've got these centered buttons thanks to the default FlowLayout manager, which now is actually we've actually put in explicitly. If I say click me on the north, it says north button clicked. Click me in the west one, and it says west button clicked. And if I click in the center, yeah, you guessed it, it says the center button and the east button and finally the south button clicked. If I click them again, nothing apparently happens, and that's because we didn't ask for anything to happen if we clicked it again. Or rather, of course, technically what did happen was it put back the text that was already there, which was north button clicked in this case. So, but from our point of view, it doesn't change. Okay, so in this tutorial, just to recap, we spent 20 minutes, hopefully usefully. We have actually now got 5 panels which have a button which changes according to the behavior of the user of the program. The user can selectively change one of these buttons when it's first set up. In the next tutorial, we're going to see how we can have these 5 panels as 5 separate classes, thus 5 separate objects which are instantiated in such a way that they can be customized to be each of them unique in their behavior. We could persist with the idea and practice that we had. We could have the constructor passed from the parent frame that contains the panel. We could be passing more parameters so that we're telling it in here, in this constructor, what to do. But there comes a point at which we don't really want more parameters. It becomes very difficult to handle, and we want to actually just say, well, you know, that panel north, I want it to do so and so, and panel east to do so and so, and we want to be able to move forward to further encapsulation, further data hiding, and further modularization. Because as we have more panels, for instance, we've got 1 here, of course, as a template. If we had 5, not 1, we've actually got more modules, and we've got an ability to change any one of those 5 differently to the others. What I mean is that you could, for example, as a team supervisor, as a programmer, give to 5 different people each a particular panel to develop, and they would use the multi-panels frame untouched, as it were, to test the panels. So each of the members of the team could have one of the panels, north, east, west, south and center, and do their thing on it, and you could see the result of their thing as they incorporated them into the package. With this system, you would have to keep changing the frame, making more and more, a longer and longer parameter list, that is, messages to be sent to the receiver in the constructor. Whereas with the method of having 5 different classes which you instantiate, you don't have to make changes here at all. The individual developer can make the changes in the panels. That's what we'll be seeing in the next tutorial. Thanks for your time.